Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT10, and BT10 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be the Ophanimon deck. So the Ophanimon deck is acting very similar to mastemon, utilizing a lot of similar parts and pieces, but the big core difference is the fact that we're not actually trying to DNA Digivolve to get up into our level 6s, and instead we're just trying to Digivolve normally. This has its own sets of benefits, as we don't need to spend extra memory to be able to get up into our level 6s for various different benefits based on the level 6 that you want to run. I'm going to be choosing to run a purple low end. You could opt to use a yellow low end if you really wanted to, just because the deck has that level of flexibility, but I feel like for where the meta is, having lots of floodgates is a really powerful thing, because we're not actually trying to digivolve off of our rookies very often, and we're just trying to hard play our level 4s and 5s to be able to line up into our level 6s. So with all that said and done, let's just go into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of DemiMeramon because it's still one of the best, if not the best, Digitama that purple has to work with, because its on-delete inheritable ability is just allowing us to draw 1 card and then discard 1 card from our hand, which is just that good at not only digging through our deck, but setting up our trash as well. Next, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Nyaromon for a very similar reason as DemiMeramon, where it's just another card that allows us to draw 1 card and discard 1 card. The big difference is this is when we attack, and we need to have a yellow Digimon in play, but that's not very hard for this deck, considering a lot of our Digimon are either 2 colors at being part yellow or are just yellow themselves. Next, onto the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Tapirmon. So Tapirmon is a flex spot for the deck. You could kind of run whatever rookie you feel like you want to run, but I really do like Tapirmon adding some extra consistency into the deck because of his on-delete ability of drawing 1 card. So we could pair this up with DemiMeramon, get some good early chips in, and try to cycle through our deck to try to make sure that we could find our parts and pieces that we're looking for. But the main reason, again, why I'm running a purple low end is because purple has some really good floodgates for us to run to try to stop and limit some of the opponent's actions, especially for this style of meta. So we have Gazimon as 1 floodgate that we could run. I'm choosing to run 3 copies just because memory manipulation isn't as prevalent. It is still in the game, and it's still important to shut off the decks that do have it, which is why it's still good at being a solid floodgate that you still want to play. But the main floodgate that we're going to be running is going to be 4 copies of Psychemon, just because right now Digicross is a very powerful mechanic and is going to be the core focus of BT10, and well, Psychemon helps shut off that type of mechanic by stopping them from reducing their play costs. Next, on to our champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gatomon. So this is the mastemon starter deck version of Gatomon, and this is one of the most important cards in the entire deck. So what's making this card so good is the fact that it's just a good search tool for our deck, revealing the top 3, adding a purple or yellow Digimon from among them into our hand, which is pretty decent considering, well, the majority of our deck is purple and yellow. And then on top of that, it's a really good tempo tool, allowing us to easily go up into our level 5, so then we could easily go up into our level 6. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 2 copies of BlackGatomon. So BlackGatomon isn't necessarily the best card to digivolve all the way up into our higher stages with, just because paying 3 is a little bit more expensive than your average level 4, but the benefit for doing so is the fact that BlackGatomon does come with a decent inheritable ability of retaliation, de-incentivizing the opponent from actually wanting to attack into our Digimon. Then on top of that, she is going to be one of the better res targets when we're going to be reviving our Digimon, just because she comes with the rush ability built into her, so that way we could swing with her the turn that she's hard played based off of some of our res abilities. And then as far as the level 5s go, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Angewomon X Antibody. So Angewomon X Antibody is a fantastic card for this deck to use, just because we have the extra usability of using her on top of an Angewomon, because our other level 5 is going to be an Angewomon. So digivolving her for 0 to gain all of the extra benefits is super nice, just because when we digivolve up into her, we're going to apply Security Tech -1, which is annoying because it stops the opponent from actually dealing damage into our security and potentially winning the game. And if we digivolved her on top of an Angewomon, then we also get to recover 1, as long as we have 5 or fewer cards in our security, which we're not going to be worried about that much because we're not actively trying to recover very often. So the fact that she can help stop some of the opponent's aggression and heal us makes her just a very well-rounded card for the deck. And then I'm going to be running 4 copies of Angewomon from the Mastemon starter deck as the Angewomon of choice to pair up with our Angewomon X Antibody. So when we don't necessarily see any of our low-level Digimon, we're not afraid of wanting to hard play her, just because compared to a lot of other level 5s, she does have a slightly lower on-play cost, and on top of that, she has an on-play ability rewarding us for doing so, where we get to apply to one of the opponent's Digimon Security Tech -2. So Security Tech minusing is actually really important for this deck because we're going to be playing Venusmon, which works with Security Tech -, and then her inheritable ability just makes our Ophanimon and potentially our Venusmon a little bit more aggressive. As long as we have a purple Digimon in play, they'll gain Security Tech +1 to actually allow this style of deck to be able to deal some decent consistent damage. But speaking of our Mega level Digimon and Venusmon more specifically, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Venusmon. So Venusmon is an absolutely insane level 6 for this deck to run, just because both of our Angewomons are already playing off of Security Tech -, and we have ways to revive and reuse those types of abilities to be able to constantly apply Security Tech - onto the opponent's Digimon, on top of Venusmon just digivolving and applying a fog effect of Security Tech - herself. And the reward for doing so is the fact that as long as the opponent has some form of security attack condition attached to their Digimon, whether it's an increase or a decrease, it doesn't matter, we get to turn off their when attacking and when digivolving abilities, and the ability for them to attack into Venusmon, making Venusmon a very annoying Digimon for the opponents to deal with, especially when she's stopping the opponent from a lot of their actions. And then the last level 6 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Ophanimon Falldown mode. So Ophanimon Falldown mode is just a pretty decent card for this deck to use because we're already leaning heavily into yellow and purple, and this card takes advantage of that very nicely with her when digivolving ability of being able to delete the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon when we have a purple Digimon underneath her, and if we have a yellow Digimon underneath her, then we get to recover 1. So we still do have some recovery, it's just not an over-exuberant amount of recovery. Then what we're really looking to gain out of the card outside of her when digivolving ability is the fact that she has a nice on-delete ability that lets us play a level 4 or lower yellow or purple Digimon from our trash. So if we're trying to be aggressive, we're going to want to revive the BlackGatomon because of the rush ability to make an extra swing. Or we could use this with the Mastemon starter deck version of Gatomon to be able to try to line up into another level 6, just because we'll revive her, she'll search, then we get a digivolve into an Angewomon for 1, and then we could use the fact that we digivolved into an Angewomon for 1 to then go up into a brand new level 6 very, very easily, almost creating a little loop to be able to use our cards as effectively as we possibly can. And then the last Digimon and only level 7 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of DeathXmon. So DeathXmon is a very powerful card that could be slotted very easily into virtually any deck, just because he could reduce his own play cost for the opponent having Digimon and Tamers in play, and he has an on-play ability that pairs up with the fact that he's reducing his own play cost to try to de-digivolve the opponent's Digimon and delete all of the opponent's Digimon that's level 4 or lower. So the wider the field, the easier it is to hard play DeathXmon, and that's the true strength of DeathXmon. And on top of that, he has some good recursive removal, where at the end of the opponent's turn, he's going to be deleting all of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost, so if they can't get rid of DeathX, then he's just going to be a persistent problem. And then as far as tamers go, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Kari Kamiya. So this is the BT8 version of Kari, and she's going to be acting as the deck's stereotypical memory fixer, so that way we could try to make our plays as efficient as we possibly can, actually having some memory to play around with. Then on top of that, she also has a nice ability to help us gain memory when we're going to be recovering, which we do have some light recovery in the deck to be able to make those cards a little bit more efficient to use. And speaking of efficiency, I'm also going to be running 3 copies of Meiko, and Meiko is just going to be a tamer-based search engine for the deck, because when we play Meiko, we get a look at the top 3 and add a purple or yellow Digimon from among them into our hand, and then trash the rest, which is actually pretty important, so that way we could actually try to set up our trash, so we could use it with various different cards and various different revive abilities. Then she has a nice All Turns ability, which isn't going to be triggering very often, but it does help when we're going to be hard playing our 2-color Digimon, which is either going to be our Gatomon or our BlackGatomon, to make them a little bit more efficient, because she's going to be gaining us a memory when we're hard playing, and this does stack per Meiko, so the more Meikos we have on the field makes it easier to want to hard play either of those cards. And then as far as the option suite goes, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Reinforcing Memory Boost. So we're using this card to look at the top 2, put one of them into our security, so it's like rigging our security, and the other into our hand. So it's an extra way for us to potentially recover and replace this card and set up our security all in one, with the delay ability of being more powerful than any of the other memory boosts, gaining us 3 memory when we need it. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Chaos Degradation. So Chaos Degradation is going to be the main big hard removal card for the deck, just because Chaos Degradation's main ability and security ability bypass a lot of protection that the opponent's Digimon might have. So placing the opponent's Digimon from the field to their security is super, super powerful, because with the main ability, we also get to burn their security, removing 1 card from the top. So usually you're going to want to put the Digimon at the bottom, knowing what the very bottom of their security stack is, and then burn the top, because we don't know what the top of their security stack is. But with the security ability, we're only forced to put the Digimon into their security, which is still pretty good, because we have various different ways that we could figure out how to aggress with our cards based on that knowledge. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Calling from the Darkness. So Calling from the Darkness is another very powerful card at letting us be able to reuse our parts and pieces. So any Digimon that's purple or part purple, we have access to. We don't necessarily need to have a Digimon on the field in order to use this card, but the fact that we don't necessarily care about trashing or deleting one of our Digimons, namely our Tapirmon, or a Gazimon that's stopping us from playing a DeathX, could be very beneficial, on top of the fact that just grabbing any 2 purple Digimon from our trash and add them to our hand is what's making this card super good, giving us access at a lot of possible different cards. And then on top of that, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Flame Hellscythe. So Flame Hellscythe is going to be that mid-level removal card, so it allows us to deal with a lot of the opponent's mid to low-level Digimon, where Chaos Degradation we're usually going to want to save on their high-stage Digimon. So Flame Hellscythe is an absolutely insane card, allowing us to potentially go 3-for-1 on card value, where it's by default minusing 6,000 DP onto the opponent's Digimon, which is good enough to delete a wide variety of Digimon, on top of the fact that we get to play a purple or yellow Digimon with 6,000 DP from our trash for free, means that we could bring back either Gatomon, BlackGatomon, or Angewomon as the primary targets to be able to then line up us being able to go into our level 6s on top of any of their on-play effects or various other abilities that they might have attached to them. And then the security ability is activating its main, so it's still a very powerful card even in security, because if we're just sitting on, let's just say, a Venusmon on the field, and the fog effect has gone away, we still need ways to be able to reapply that debuff, and Angewomon and Angewomon X Antibody are 2 very decent cards to be able to reapply that security attack minus debuff, so that way Venusmon's secondary ability can be online as often as we could possibly make it, thanks to this card. And then the last card of the deck and last option is going to be 1 copy of Win Rate 60%. So win rate 60% is just helping us with the overall tempo of the deck. We do need to have one of our tamers in play in order to actually use this card, but when we do use this card, it's actually pretty decent. So we don't care about the fact that we have to discard a card because, well, we're in purple, and purple has access at its trash on being able to reuse it for various different purposes. And the benefit for discarding a card is allowing us to digivolve one of our Digimon for a reduced cost of 4, so we're essentially just paying the option to be able to want to go from our level 5 into our level 6, so it just helps us be able to climb our stages as effectively as we possibly can. And then there's still just a lot of different tech and tools that you can incorporate into the deck to really customize it and make it your own. So as I mentioned before, you could swap out of purple eggs and purple rookies and run yellow eggs and yellow rookies instead. And we do have some really powerful yellow rookies that we could be using. And I'm going to just highlight the Salamon suite just because, well, the Salamon suite's already leaning into purple and yellow, on top of the fact that it's helping us recover and helping with the deck's overall consistency as well. Then we do have some solid other level 4s that we could think about utilizing just because, well, purple and yellow and the want to play both purple and yellow is very expansive, so you could play something like a Meikomon just because it's acting as a good security threat as well, being a security Digimon with its on-play ability only making our Ophanimon better. On top of the fact that we do just have something as simple as the promo Gatomon to act as another good card that we want to hard play for some solid value with recovery and interacting with our purple Digimon by making her a blocker, but we do have various other level 4s that we could think about using as well that kind of just help with the overall tempo and game style depending on what your lineup actually is. Then as far as some alternative level 5s of the deck you could use, we could use the anti-meta Neo Devimon to try to stop and limit the opponent's tamers and really tax them heavily for the usage of their tamers, on top of the fact that because we're still in the 2-color combination of purple and yellow, we do have Meiko as another really good card to bring back with Call from the Darkness or still hard play, just because her hard play cost is a little bit cheaper than your average level 5, with the inheritable of still being very beneficial for our Ophanimon. Then if we feel like we need a little bit more recovery, then we could splash in a Magna Angewomon as a good recovery card, again playing itself off of Flame Hellscythe, while making our level 6s, whether it's Venusmon or Ophanimon, a little bit stronger. And we do have some other really decent level 6s that fit within this color combination as well. So we could run something like mastemon, or we could run something like Junimon as well, all depending on what you're trying to actually gain out of the deck. And then as far as some other really solid level 7s that we could run, we could think about adopting an Omnimon package just because we have Omnimon Swart to just try to shove into our security or hope it's in our security. And we do have Omnimon Merciful Mode as a card that not only can digivolve off of yellow Digimon, but can digivolve off of our other Omnimons as well. And then when it comes to other removal options, we do have various different removal tech in both purple and yellow we could think about leaning into. Then we do have some various other tamers that we could think about incorporating, again, all depending on what you're actually trying to gain and how you're trying to use your cards. So we could use something like Kari Kamiya from BT4 to be a little bit more disruptive towards the opponent. We could use something like Purple Mimi to make our options easier to use. We could use something like Analog Youth to try to act as a good solid consistency tool for the deck while trying to fill up our trash and reload our raising area. So there's just a lot of different things that you could do inside of the deck, which makes it a really interesting deck to want to build and play. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.